The topic of the talk is characteristics of a Sotapanna. It is very important to know the characteristics of the Sotapanna so that you will know how to become a Sotapanna. Sotapanna, actually, most of us know as the first fruition Arya. It is also known as Sotapatti Phala. Phala is fruit, Sotapatti is stream entry. So it's the attainment of the fruit of stream entry. That's the Sotapanna. When you analyze this Pali word Sotapanna, we find Sota has two meanings. It's either used as an ear, and Diva Sota, the heavenly ear, or divine ear, and the other meaning is stream. Apanna means entered or penetrated. So Sotapanna means a person who has entered the stream. You can also say it is a person whose ear has been penetrated by the Dhamma. So that is Sotapanna. So just now I mentioned, Sotapanna also means Sotapatti Phala. Sotapatti is stream enterer. Sometimes we have this confusion, stream enterer, and we think it's a path attainer, and some people think it's a fruit attainer. So in Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, he translates Sotapanna as stream enterer. But then Sotapatti, the first path attainer, is also a person who has entered the stream, who is also a stream enterer. Yeah. So to differentiate the two, I prefer to call the Sotapanna the stream winner. And the first path attainer is one who has entered the stream. Now, since this is a Sotapatti Phala, so we have to know what is stream entry, Sotapatti. In the Samyutta Nikaya, under this Okanti Samyutta, which is chapter 25 of the Samyutta Nikaya, the first sutta, it talks about the two types of path attainer. One is called the Saddha Nusarin, faith follower. The second one is called the Dhamma Nusarin, Dhamma follower. Only two types of the first path attainer. And it is said that the faith follower, the Saddha Nusarin, is one who places faith in the Dhamma and resolves on them. And the Dhamma follower, Dhamma Nusarin, is the one who accepts the Dhamma after having pondered on them. So the first one places faith in the Dhamma. The second one accepts the Dhamma. So to have faith in the Dhamma, you must listen to the Dhamma, isn't it? Then you understand the Dhamma. Then only you can have faith in the Dhamma. Yeah? And the other one, the Dhamma Nusarin, Dhamma follower, accepts the Dhamma after having pondered on them. From here you can see both of them have listened to the Dhamma. And the first one has faith on the Dhamma. The second one accepts the Dhamma and has understood the Dhamma because he has pondered on it. Now the sutta continues to say the characteristics of these two first path attainers. They have transcended the plane of the ordinary worldlings. The ordinary worldlings are the Putujana, ordinary people who go round and round the cycle of rebirth and samsara. So if they have transcended the plane of the Putujana, they are Arya. So the first path attainer is an Arya. That is why when the Buddha talks about the Aryans, he talks about 8 types of Aryans. The first path, the first fruit, second path, second fruit, third path, third fruit, and fourth path, fourth fruit. And all Arahants and all Buddhas come under the fourth fruit category. So the first thing is this these first path attainers are Aryans. And then it also says they are incapable of rebirth in the three woeful planes. We will never fall down into the woeful planes. That means the rebirth as a ghost, rebirth as an animal, and rebirth in the hell realm. We will never take rebirth there. That is very important because samsara, we can be reborn in 5 destinations of rebirth. Later books talk about 6. Liu Tao Lung Wei, they talk about 6 destinations of rebirth. But in the original suttas, the Buddha only talked about 5 types of rebirth planes. The first 2, heavenly and the human plane, are happy destinations of rebirth. The 3 woeful planes of rebirth I just mentioned just now, so that makes up 5. Now, samsara is very frightening only because of these 3 woeful planes of rebirth. If you are not going to fall into the 3 woeful planes of rebirth, then there's no need to get out of samsara, isn't it? Stay on, enjoy yourself as a human being, as a deva or devi, isn't it? So, now the Arya will never be reborn into the 3 woeful planes. That's another characteristic. Then the third one mentioned, they are incapable of dying without attaining the fruit of stream entry. Sotapanna Bala. They are incapable of dying without attaining the fruit of stream entry. This means at the last moment, even if they don't, from path, they don't turn to fruit, at the very last moment when they are dying, they will automatically attain the fruit. So actually it hints that the path and the fruit takes some time. Later books like the Abhidhamma, they say that when you attain the path, immediately the next conscious moment, it becomes fruit. If that is the case, you will never meet a path attainer, because before you can say hello, he has become a fruit attainer the next conscious moment, isn't it? So the suttas actually indicate that the path and the fruit take some time. Normally it will take a few years. And this is verified in 2 suttas. One is the Majjhima Nikaya 142, Dakkhina Vibhanga Sutta, where the Buddha talks about the merit of giving to different persons. So it is mentioned that even if you give an offering to 100 first path attainers, the merit is less than giving to 1 Sotapanna, first fruit attainer. That being the case, it means you can give to a first path attainer. If you can give to a first path attainer, it does not exist for only one conscious moment. It's there for you to give, isn't it? So from this sutta, it's quite evident that you can give to path attainers that they don't exist only for one conscious moment. The other sutta is Samyutta Nikaya 55.24. And it's mentioned there that the first path attainer has not yet attained confirmed confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Whereas the first fruit attainer has attained confirmed confidence, avijjapasada, in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. So, you can see here that the path attainer, because he has not yet turned to fruit, his confidence is not confirmed yet. So these two show that after he attains stream entry, it takes some time before it turns to fruit. Now, it's also mentioned in this sutta that the Sotapanna is one who knows and sees the Dhamma. One who knows and sees the Dhamma. And this person also has all the characteristics mentioned before. And in addition, it is said that the Sotapanna is fixed in destiny. with enlightenment as his destination. That means no matter what happens, even if he does not make any effort, he will definitely attain enlightenment. And in other suttas, it is mentioned not more than 7 lifetimes. Within the maximum of 7 lifetimes, he will automatically enter Nibbana. So these are the things mentioned in this sutta 25.1. To recap, the path attainer and the fruit attainer have transcended the plane of the ordinary worldlings and become an Arya. And so they are incapable of rebirth in the woeful planes. And the path attainer is incapable of dying without attaining the fruit of stream entry. And then the Sotapanna is fixed in destiny, with enlightenment as his destination. Now we look at another sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 55.5. This under the Sotapanna Samyutta. It is mentioned there are 4 factors or conditions for stream entry. Sotapatti Yamdani. In other words, to attain stream entry, there are 4 conditions. First, association with true men, Sattva. Second, hearing the true Dhamma. Third, focused attention or proper attention. And fourth is practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. Dhamma no Dhamma pati pati. So the first one, association with true men. Who are true men? True men, Sattva, this word also means Aryans. Those who understand the true Dhamma. Because only because they understand the true Dhamma, you can hear the true Dhamma from them. The true Dhamma is called Sat Dhamma. And what is Sat Dhamma? It is very important to know what is the real Dhamma. In the Anguttara Nikaya 4.180, the Buddha said, certain monks might say, the Buddha said this and the Buddha said that, and some elder monks, they also might say, I heard the Buddha say this and that, but the Buddha said, when they claim anything to be the Buddha's teachings, you should not accept it and you should not reject it. Instead, you should compare it with the suttas and the Vinaya. If it agrees with the suttas and the Vinaya, then you know it is the Buddha's words. If it does not agree with the suttas and the Vinaya, then the Buddha said, it is definitely not the Buddha's words and throw it away. So, the Vinaya only concerns monks and nuns. So, for the more important one is the Dhamma. And the Dhamma here refers to the suttas. And also in the Vinaya books and the suttas, the Buddha mentioned that this true Dhamma will last 500 years. Later books talk about 5,000 years, but actually the Buddha mentioned 500 years. And what he means is that within 500 years, the Dhamma will not be polluted. After 500 years, the Dhamma will be polluted. So we want to know what is the Dhamma within these 500 years after the Buddha passed away. Luckily, we have Emperor Asoka, who lived about 250 years after the Buddha's passing away. Emperor Asoka had a lot of faith in the Buddha, so he erected these pillars, what are called Asoka pillars, stone pillars, along the roads for people to see. Maybe every 1 kilometer would erect this stone pillar. And nowadays, archaeologists have dug up these pillars and they find carved out the words of the Buddha on these pillars, and they confirm that during Emperor Asoka's time there were only 5 Nikayas. The Tiga Nikaya along the discourses of the Buddha, Majjhima Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, and the last one, Khuddaka Nikaya, the minor collection. So these are the only Dhamma that existed during Emperor Asoka's time, meaning this is the only Dhamma during the Buddha's time, as the Buddha said, 500 years period is a true Dhamma. And this word, the third condition, Yoniso Manasikara, which I translate as focus, attention. Sometimes they say careful attention. And in Chinese they say Ru Li Se Wei. So this word means that when you listen to the Dhamma, you are focused on listening to the Dhamma. In other words, at that time, you don't have the 5 hindrances. If that is so, then you can understand the Dhamma and attain stream entry. So who are the people who do not have the 5 hindrances? In the suttas, it is stated by the Buddha that as long as a person has not attained piti and sukha, which are secluded from unwholesome states, which are secluded from sensual pleasures, the 5 hindrances will obsess him and obsess him habitually. So there are 2 types of persons who do not have the 5 hindrances. One is, when I mentioned just now, the Buddha said secluded from unwholesome states and secluded from sensual pleasures, he attains piti and sukha. That refers to the first jhana. So when a person attains the first jhana, he has eliminated the 5 hindrances. And the Buddha says the 5 hindrances no longer obsess that person habitually. So there are 2 conditions if a person has the hindrances. Firstly, it obsesses your mind, it enslaves your mind. And secondly, it is habitual, it is very often there. So that's why you find sometimes in newspapers, somebody rapes the daughter or rapes the granddaughter because he cannot control his hindrances, overwhelm his mind, obsess his mind. So there is one person who, after he attained the first jhana, the Buddha says the 5 hindrances are eliminated. A lot of people don't believe this because they don't really understand the hindrances. If I ask you what are the hindrances, a lot of people will say sexual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry and doubt. Yeah? But these are not the 5 hindrances. These are called the 5 hindrances where they obsess your mind, where they enslave your mind, and they recur habitually. Only then they are called the 5 hindrances. So, when a person attains the first jhana, these 5 hindrances reduce to a low level. They are still there, but they are not called hindrances anymore. It's just like if you walk through the jungle, you have 7 feet high lalang, long grass obstructing you. It's a hindrance because you try to go through it, you cannot see in front of you. Secondly, it cuts you, cuts your skin. So it's a big hindrance. But if I cut down that lalang to 12 inches, is it a hindrance? It's no more hindrance. Well, it's obviously there, isn't it? 12 inches of lalang, everybody can see. But it's not called a hindrance anymore because it's so low. Yeah? But it's still observable. Yeah? So when a person attains the first jhana, it's like the 7 feet lalang has cut down to 12 inches. When he attains the second jhana, the 12 inches becomes 8 inches. When he attains the third jhana, it becomes 4 inches. When he attains the fourth jhana, it becomes 1 millimeter. So little. So there's a big difference between the first 3 jhanas and the fourth jhana. So that's why it is said that once a person attains the first jhana, the hindrances are eliminated, meaning generally eliminated for good. The other type of person who does not have the 5 hindrances, habitually obsessing his mind, is an intelligent person, a person with a high IQ. Normally a person born with a high IQ, he has good concentration, and that was obtained from a previous life. A very good example is Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, you give him a long mathematical problem which we cannot calculate in our head. He will just close his eyes, do the whole calculation that you need to do on calculating machine, and you come up with the answer and write it down. Yeah? So it shows there's great concentration. So people who are intelligent, they are able to focus their mind. That's very important. A scatterbrained person cannot be an intelligent person. The mind is so scattered. So these are the two types of persons. One, because of previous life, is born very intelligent. He can focus his mind. The second person is one who has attained the jhanas. Then the fourth condition, practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. So he keeps practicing the Dhamma and he will attain sweet entry. Now this fourth condition may not be necessary for some people. We find in the suttas, many people, when they listen to the Buddha speaking the Dhamma, even for the first time, they attain sweet entry. The Buddha confirms this. But some people, after they listen, it doesn't click immediately. They go back, they think about it, and then it clicks, and then they understand the Dhamma and attain the sweet entry. So this practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma is, after he has listened, he starts to recall the Dhamma or investigate more of the Dhamma. And then after some time, then the pieces fall into place like a jigsaw puzzle, and then he sees the Dhamma. So that is why the fourth condition is good. Now in this Sutta 55.5, it is mentioned that the word Sota for the Sotapanna means the stream, and it refers to the Noble Eightfold Path. So when we look at another Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 117, it is said, the Buddha says, that if you want to practice the Noble Eightfold Path, you must come to the first factor, right view. And the Buddha says, right view will bring you to the second factor, right thoughts, which will bring you to right speech, which will bring you to right action, which will bring you to right livelihood, which will bring you to right effort, which will bring you to right recollection, and finally, right concentration. So it is said, you must always enter the Noble Eightfold Path from the first factor, right view. That's very important. That's why you see, like in India, we have many yogis who have perfected meditation, so much so that they have psychic powers. Because they don't have right view, they cannot become a Sotapanna. So you can practice years and years and years like these yogis, and then you never become a Sotapanna unless you listen to the Buddha Suttas. So, this is also said that the Sotapanna is one who is endowed with the Noble Eightfold Path. Because of this sentence, there are certain monks who say that the Sotapanna needs jhana, because the Sotapanna is endowed with the Noble Eightfold Path. But if you look at other suttas, this is not so. Because in the Anguttara Nikaya, 3.86 and 9.12, it is said that of the four types of fruit attainers, the Sotapanna, Sakadagamin, Anagamin, and Arahan, the Sotapanna and the Sakadagamin have perfect sila. The Noble Eightfold Path can be said to be also three things: sila, samadhi, panya, which is moral conduct, concentration, and wisdom. Right? So it is said that the Sotapanna and the Sakadagamin have perfect sila, perfect moral conduct. The Anagamin has perfect sila and samadhi, and the Arahan has perfect sila, samadhi, and panya. This perfect concentration, samadhi, perfect concentration, is always said to be the four jhanas. Yeah? So the Sotapanna and the Sakadagamin do not have the four jhanas. But there is a difference between the Sotapanna and the Sakadagamin. The Sakadagamin, in addition to destroying the three factors that the Sotapanna has destroyed, the Sakadagamin has reduced greed, hatred, and delusion. Greed, hatred, and delusion is connected with the hindrances, which is connected with concentration, So, I believe that the Sotapanna does not need any jhana, because there are many suttas that show this. But the Sakadagamin needs either the first or the second or the third jhana. The Sakadagamin, the second fruit attainer. Whereas the Anagamin and Arahant, they need 4 jhanas, they have perfect concentration. So, this one I have to say here. Now I'd like to quote you another sutta which is in the Bojjhanga Samyutta about the factors of enlightenment. It talks about how a person practices the Bojjhangas, the way to enlightenment. And this is not the only sutta. There are other suttas, for example, the Majjhima Nikaya 95 Chanki Sutta, which talks about the gradual practice, the gradual progress of a person. And he says that first you have to draw near a teacher. For a person to draw near a teacher, that person must be spiritually mature. And then he's ready to practice a spiritual path, so he starts searching. Then he comes across a monk. And the Buddha says he should examine the monk to see whether he has greed, hatred and delusion. If he sees that the monk does not have greed, hatred and delusion, then he has faith in the monk. And then when he has faith in the monk, he shows respect to the monk and frequently visits the monk. When he does this, he gets a chance to listen to the Dhamma from the monk. And if the monk is an Arya, then he will teach the true Dhamma. This is the Buddha's Dhamma. And when this person listens to the Dhamma, he can possibly attain stream entry here. But even if he does not, the Dhamma affects him in a way that the Buddha says in the Bojjhanga Samyutta, that after hearing the Dhamma, he dwells withdrawn. He dwells withdrawn. 2 types of withdrawal, body and mind. Then he recollects the Dhamma and thinks it over. And it's mentioned in this Bojjhanga Samyutta, when he recollects the Dhamma and thinks it over, on that occasion, the enlightenment factor of recollection, sati, is aroused by the monk. On that occasion, the enlightenment factor, Bojjhanga, of sati, is developed by the monk. On that occasion, the enlightenment factor of sati is fulfilled by the monk. So you see here, this word sati, according to the Buddha here, means remembering the Dhamma that you have heard. Recollecting the Dhamma that you have heard, that is the meaning of sati. And then, after recollecting the Dhamma, the Buddha says, he investigates the Dhamma with wisdom. On that occasion, the enlightenment factor of Dhamma Vichaya, investigation of Dhamma, is aroused by the monk. On that occasion, the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma is developed by the monk. On that occasion, the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma is fulfilled by the monk. So, there are some people at this stage, after they investigate the Dhamma and they understand, then they attain stream entry. Then after that, the Buddha says, he puts forth energy, virya. This is the third Bojjhanga, enlightenment factor. And from there, because he puts forth effort, he meditates and all that, he attains piti, delight, and tranquility, etc., which are connected with the jhanas. So, this is the way that the Buddha says a person develops the Bojjhangas. Now, there is, so just now I mentioned, to enter the Noble Eightfold Path, we start with right view. How do you attain right view? In the Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 43, it is said there are only 2 conditions to attain right view. First, the voice of another. And the second, focus attention. Focus attention, we heard before. The first one is the voice of another. So it's very important that you must hear the Dhamma from another person. Only then you can get right view and become an Arya. If nobody teaches you the Dhamma, you will never become an Arya. That's why we find like in India. India is a very religious country. The people there, they are very devoted. So you have many yogis, many ascetics, all trying to find a way out of samsara. And they practice extremely hard. They are even willing to give up their life. So you find some, they do all kinds of ascetic practices because they think that is the way to enlightenment. Some hold up their hand 1 year, 2 years, 10 years. After 10 years it becomes stiff, want to bring it down, also cannot bring down. So you can pity these people, they put in so much effort, they suffer so much, and yet they get nothing. Because no Arya was around to teach them. Only when the Buddha came and taught the Dhamma, and people listened to the Dhamma and attained stream entry without any effort. See, just listen only. So, you are very unfortunate if you meet a wrong teacher. You put in so much effort, in the end you get nothing. But if you meet the right teacher, show you the easy way, then you become an Arya overnight. So, the voice of another is very important. Only the voice of another teaching you the Dhamma, you can attain stream entry. This is confirmed by another sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 46.38. The Buddha said, monks, when a noble disciple listens to the Dhamma with eager ears, attending to it as a matter of vital concern, directing his whole mind to it, on that occasion, the 5 hindrances are not present in him. On that occasion, the 7 factors of enlightenment go to fulfillment by development. So you see, if you can listen to the Dhamma with a focused mind, then the 5 hindrances are not there. And on that occasion, the Buddha says, the 7 bhujangas, factors of enlightenment, are fulfilled. So that is the time you can attain stream entry. There's another sutta, Anguttara Nikaya 10.75. They said there, the person who is immoral, but who has listened to the Dhamma, he becomes learned, penetrated Dhamma by view, that means attain right view, attains partial liberation. The ear for Dhamma, Dhamma Sota, pulls him out, that means pulls him out from samsara. So the ear for Dhamma has saved him. Listening to the Dhamma has saved him from samsara. So stream entry, entering the Noble Eightfold Path is dependent on right view, which is dependent on the voice of another teaching you the Dhamma. So listening to the true Dhamma, the 5 Nikayas, is very, very important. That is why the Buddha called all his disciples, monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, what do you call them? Savaka. Listeners. Yeah? So the Buddha wants you to know that listening is so important. That's why he called his disciples Savaka. If you don't listen to the Buddha's words, today you say you are a Buddhist. 2 days later you change your religion. It's only by listening to the Dhamma and understanding that you have confirmed confidence in the Buddha. You will never be shaken. So to give you some examples, I quote 3 simple examples. One is from the Vinaya book, Mahavagga, chapter 1. The Buddha, before enlightenment, he was walking here and there, searching for the path to enlightenment. Then he came to Rajagaha, and King Bimbisara met him. And King Bimbisara was very impressed by the Buddha and asked the Buddha to stay in his country forever. But the Buddha didn't want that. The Buddha wanted to search for enlightenment, wanted to be free to roam here and there. Then he made the Buddha promise him that if the Buddha becomes enlightenment, must come back and teach them. So after the Buddha was enlightened, he started to gather disciples. After he had gathered 60 Arahant disciples, taught them the Dhamma, all listened and attained arahanthood, because they had 4 jhanas. So after the Buddha had 60 arahant disciples, he asked them to walk. Don't 2 of you go by the same road, he said. All go in different directions and teach the Dhamma for the good of the manifold. So off they went. Then after that, the Buddha surveyed who else should he teach. Then the Buddha found a group of 1,000 jatilas, matted hair ascetics, living by the riverside. These matted hair ascetics, they prayed to fire. They worshipped the fire, but they had attained jhana. And because they had attained jhana, the leader had psychic powers and considered himself an arahant, and his disciples considered him an arahant. So the Buddha went to them. Such people, they think they have some attainment, and because they don't have the Dhamma foundation, the ego becomes bigger. Not easy to teach such people. So the Buddha went to them and started to show psychic powers over a few weeks. And after a few weeks, they were totally impressed by the Buddha. Then the Buddha told the leader, Kassapa, you are not an arahant, and you are not practicing the way to become an arahant. And there was like a slap on his face. And after some thinking, he decided to become a disciple of the Buddha. He shaved off all his long hair. And then when his disciples saw that, they all shaved off. So 1,000 of them became the Buddha's disciples. Then the Buddha taught them one Dhamma, one discourse, called the fire discourse, Aditta Pariyaya Sutta, because they prayed to fire. When the Buddha talked about fire, they all listened. So just one sutta, 1,000 of them became arahants. So easy, no need to all that ascetic practice. Just listening to one sutta, they became arahants. But they had the 4 jhanas as condition. So after that, the Buddha brought them to Rajagaha, to King Bimbisara. And then the King Bimbisara threw a big lunch for all of these arahants and invited all the people of Rajagaha to come and see arahants. So according to the Vinaya books, 12 Nahuta of people came. And one Nahuta is said to be 10,000. So 120,000 people came to see the arahants. So after lunch, after eating, the Buddha spoke Dhamma to 120,000 people. And it is said that all of them attained stream entry. All of them attained stream entry. They are not professors or doctors or scientists, They are Akong, Amma, Yi, Aso, ordinary people. So there is one glaring example. Another one is Samyutta Nikaya 55.24, Sarakani Sutta. There was a man, Sarakani, a Sakyan, in Kapilavatthu, who passed away. And then after he passed away, people asked the Buddha, where did Sarakani go for rebirth? And the Buddha said, he's gone to a good place because he was a Sotapanna. So when a lot of people spread the news, some people were very unhappy. They said, this Sarakani, he used to drink liquor. He cannot even keep the 5 precepts. How can he be a Sotapanna? If he can be a Sotapanna, anybody can be a Sotapanna. So when the monks came back to tell the Buddha said, when the lay follower has gone for refuge over a long time to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, that means he has listened to the Buddha's discourses for a long time, how could he go to the woeful world for rebirth? And then the Buddha went on to say characteristics of the different types of Arya. The Buddha said that the Arahant and the Anagamin, because they have the 4th jhana, they have joyous wisdom, they have sharp wisdom, Javana, Panya, and Hasa Panya. So when a person attains the 4th jhana, he has very sharp wisdom. And then the Buddha talks about the Sakadagamin, and then talks about the Sotapanna. And says that the Sotapanna has confirmed confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. But the 2 path attainers, Dhammanusarin and Sadhanusarin, do not possess confirmed confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. So after that, the Buddha said a very surprising thing. The Buddha said, why should not Sarakani become a Sotapanna? Buddha said, even if these great Sala trees could understand what is well spoken and what is badly spoken, then I would declare these great Sala trees to be stream winners, Sotapanna, no longer bound to the woeful world, fixed in destiny, with enlightenment as their destination. How much more than Sarakani the Sakyan? So the Buddha says here, if I talk to this Dhamma, to these trees, and they can understand me, I say they also will become Sotapanna. Buddha says, why should not Sarakani become a Sotapanna? So from here, it's very clear, the Buddha is saying that by listening to him and understanding his words, you can become a Sotapanna. Even trees can become a Sotapanna. Why you cannot become Sotapanna? Now, the interesting thing is, why is it that this Sarakani could not keep the liquor precept and can become Arya? Because he has the Aryan precepts. What are the Aryan precepts? Can anyone tell me? You listen to my Dhamma talks and you can tell. In the Noble Eightfold Path, the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path can be divided into Sila, Samadhi and Panya. And under Sila, there are 3 factors. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And when you investigate these 3 factors, you find they consist of 7 precepts. 3 body precepts: not to kill, not to steal, not to commit adultery. And then 4 verbal precepts: not to lie, not to carry tales to cause disharmony, not to use vulgar or coarse speech, and not to engage in gossip. So, only 7 precepts. Is a liquor precept then? It's not. So liquor precept was put in later. So originally the Buddha did not put it in because if you drink liquor, you don't harm anybody, you only harm yourself. So liquor is not in the Aryan precepts, only the 7 precepts I just mentioned. 3 body precepts and 4 verbal precepts. Okay. Now, the third example I'm going to give is from the Vinaya books, Chula Vaga, chapter 7. Devadatta was a disciple of the Buddha, was very ambitious. Initially, he had all the 8 jhanas, the 4 rupa and the 4 arupa, and because of that, he had psychic powers, and because he had psychic powers, he became arrogant. That shows he didn't listen to the Dhamma enough. He did not attain street entry, because there are some people mentioned in one of the suttas. The Buddha said, when he's teaching the Dhamma to his disciples, he was rebuking one monk. He said, I noticed you were never listening when I was teaching the Dhamma. So probably Devadatta was somebody like that, because he was so arrogant, he thinks he knows everything. When the Buddha was teaching the suttas, he was thinking of something else. So because of that, he could not attain stream entry. Then he wanted to take over the Buddha's place. In front of all the monks, he told the Buddha, I said, you are old already, Bhagavan, step down and let me be the leader. And then the Buddha scolded him in front of the monks. The Buddha said, who do you think you are? You want to take my place, and never even call Sariputta or Moggallana to take my place, and you want to take my place. The Buddha said, you are like spittle, people spit out, nobody wants it. So because of those strong words, he developed a lot of hatred for the Buddha. Then he tried to kill the Buddha, and he tried a few ways. And one of the ways he tried, because the Prince Ajatasattu had a lot of faith in the Buddha, and he asked Prince Ajatasattu to give him a few men. So the prince gave him a few men, and he told the first man, he said, you go to such and such a place in the forest, Samana Gautama is there. You kill him and come back by this road. Then after this man had gone, he called another two men. He said, this man is coming back by this road. You kill him and go back by this road. Then he asked 4 men to kill the 2, asked 8 men to kill the 4, and 16 to kill the 8. So he thought in the end nobody can find out. Okay. So the first man went. Then he went to the Buddha. He was surprised to see the Buddha waiting for him. Either the Buddha knew himself or sometimes devas would come and warn the Buddha. So he started to tremble, and then the Buddha asked him, come here. Then he threw away his weapons and knelt before the Buddha. The Buddha asked him to sit down. I will teach you the Dhamma, the Buddha said. So the Buddha taught him the Dhamma, he attained stream entry. Then the Buddha said, you don't go back by this road. 2 men are waiting to kill you. You go back by some other road. Then 2 men waited. After some time, they got impatient, they started walking. And they came to the Buddha also. They saw the Buddha waiting for them. They also got frightened. Then the Buddha asked them to sit down, spoke the Dhamma to them. He attained stream entry. 4 came, attained stream entry. 8 came, attained stream entry. 16 came, attained stream entry. So you see, these people, you don't expect them to meditate, isn't it? Yet they all attain stream entry. So it's very clear from here that listening to the Dhamma is the way to attain stream entry, because they have seen the Dhamma. And then when a person listens to the Dhamma and has seen the Dhamma, there's a stock phrase that the Buddha describes. For example, in Majjhima Nikaya 74, then in the wanderer, Viganaka, the spotless, immaculate vision of the Dhamma arose. All that is subject to arising is subject to cessation. The wanderer saw the Dhamma, attained the Dhamma, understood the Dhamma, fathomed the Dhamma, he crossed beyond doubt, did away with perplexity, gained intrepidity, and became independent of others in the teacher's dispensation, or the teacher's sasana, meaning the Buddha's teaching or the Buddha's doctrine or the Buddha's religion. So you see, when a person understands the Dhamma, he has attained vision of the Dhamma, Dhamma Chakku, and he understands all that is subject to arising is subject to cessation. In other words, he has seen very clearly anicca. We all think we understand anicca. Not so simple, If you understand anicca, it means you understand dukkha. It also means you understand anatta. Normally, because our mind is not focused, when we hear something, we don't concentrate on it, we don't understand so clearly. But suppose now a doctor tells you, you have 6 months more to live, you have a tumor in your lung or something. At that time, you will see anicca, because you see anicca, you see dukkha, So, that is a stock phrase on the attainment or vision of the Dhamma. Now, in the Samyutta Nikaya 55.1, they said that the 4 characteristics of the Sotapanna are confirm confidence in the Buddha, confirm confidence in the Dhamma, confirm confidence in the Sangha, and possess the Aryan precepts, which I mentioned just now is the 7 precepts. And then another characteristic mentioned in Samyutta Nikaya 55.30, an Aryan disciple is endowed with 5 factors. First one is Ayu, second is Vano, then Sukha, then Yasa, then Adipati. First one, Ayu, is long life. You see sometimes it's Sultan's birthday, what do they write? Dirga Ayu, Dirga is a Sanskrit for Diga, it's Diga Nikaya. Dirga Ayu is long life. So Ayu means long life. So the first one, if you are an Arya, you will get long life, either in the human realm or in the heavenly realm, you will get long life. Then second one, Vano is beauty, to be beautiful, to be reborn, beautiful. The third one, you will have Sukham, happiness, to be very happy, happy person. And then the fourth one is Yasa, Yasa is fame, to be famous. And then the fifth one is Adipati, Adipati is lordship or rulership. So if you are born in the Deva realm, you might be a Deva Raja. If you are born in the human realm and you work in a company, you come up to be a CEO. So that is my thoughts here. Now in the Anguttara Nikaya 3.86, it is said that the Sotapanna has destroyed the three factors, Sakaya Ditti, doubt, and attachment to precepts and practices, Silabhata Paramasa. But the path attainer has not destroyed these three factors. That's why you see that after you listen to the Dhamma and you understand, you have entered the stream, but you have not changed your character. It takes some time to change your character. So you keep practicing the Dhamma, and you change your character, and then the three factors are eliminated. It is also mentioned in this sutta, very interesting, that an Arya, whether he's a Sotapanna or Sakadagamin or Anagamin or Arahan, he can fall into offences in regard to the lesser and minor training rules, but he rehabilitates himself, that means he confesses. So an Arya can break the minor precepts. So if you don't understand this, you might be very critical of a monk or a nun. That person might be an Arya. Don't think an Arya can break the minor precepts. But he says here, he will quickly rehabilitate himself, that means he will confess, he will never hide. Not like some people do things and hide. He's very open. Arya is very straightforward and very open. Okay. Now I come to a very important sutta, which is the Majjhima Nikaya 48, which has the most detailed description of the Sotapanna, the characteristics of a Sotapanna. In this sutta, the Buddha said the Sotapanna has 7 characteristics. The first one, the Buddha says, this monk considers, is there any obsession unabandoned in myself that might so obsess my mind that I cannot know and see things as they really are? If a monk is obsessed by sensual lust, he is obsessed by ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse, doubt, speculation about the world, then his mind is obsessed. But this Sotapanna, he understands, there is no obsession unabandoned in myself that might so obsess my mind that I cannot know and see things as they really are. My mind is well disposed for awakening to the truths. So, the first quality of a Sotapanna, the 5 hindrances, does not obsess his mind. So, for a person who is intelligent, you are not habitually obsessed by these 5 things. You can say you don't have the 5 hindrances. You don't have to attain jhana. You probably did it in a previous life. Otherwise you won't be born intelligent. Now the second one, do I obtain internal serenity? Then he understands, he personally obtains stillness or serenity of mind. So if you can calm your mind, that is a characteristic of the Sotapanna. There are some people who are so scatterbrained, they cannot calm their mind even for a short while. The third characteristic, the Sotapanna understands there is no other ascetic outside the Buddha's teaching possessed of right view such as I possess. So he knows that the Buddha's teaching basically is the Four Noble Truths or the Noble Eightfold Path. So if there is some other ascetic, follower of some other religion, if they don't have the Noble Eightfold Path, then they cannot possess this right view. That's the third characteristic. The fourth one, this is the character of a person who possesses right view. Although he may commit some kind of offense for which a means of rehabilitation has been laid down, still he at once confesses, reveals and discloses it to the teacher or to wise companions in the holy light. So this is what was mentioned earlier, that Sotapanna can commit some minor offense, but he will immediately confess, he won't hide it. The fifth characteristic, this is the character of a person who possesses right view. Although he may be active in various matters for his companions in the holy light, yet he has a keen regard for training in the higher virtue, training in the higher mind, and training in the higher wisdom. So here he says, if a monk is very busy also, he will try to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. So even for lay persons also, if you have understood the Dhamma, you might be very busy as a CEO or something, and yet when you have free time, you will try to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. The sixth characteristic, a noble disciple considers, do I possess the strength of a person who possesses right view? What is the strength of a person who possesses right view? This is the strength of a person who possesses right view. When the Dhamma Vinaya proclaimed by the Buddha is being taught, he heeds it, gives it attention, engages it with all his mind, hears the Dhamma with eager ears. So you see here, this is a characteristic of the Sotapanna. If he has a chance to listen to the Dhamma, he will very eagerly listen to it and put in all the attention. He wants to listen to Dhamma. And then another characteristic of a Sotapanna, what is the strength of a person who possesses right view? This is the strength of a person who possesses right view. When the Dhamma Vinaya proclaimed by the Buddha is being taught, he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. When a noble disciple is thus possessed of these 7 factors, he possesses the fruit of stream entry. So this last two is very important. The sixth one, when he has a chance to listen to Dhamma, he pays attention, engages it with all his mind, hears the Dhamma with eager ears. And then the seventh one, when he has a chance to listen to the Dhamma, he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. In other words, a characteristic of the Sotapanna is he likes to listen to the suttas. If you don't have interest to listen to the suttas, no chance to become a Sotapanna. This said by the Buddha, not me. 3 types of Sotapanna. Anguttara Nikaya 3.87. There are 3 types of Sotapanna. One is called the Satta Kattu Parama, one with 7 births at most. And that is among devas and humans, 7 more lifetimes maximum. The second one is called the Kolan Kola, the family to family attainer among good families 2 or 3 times. That means he's born in the human realm 2 or 3 times among good families. And then the Ekabiji, the one seed attainer, is reborn in the human existence only once. Why is one Sotapanna is born once only, another one is born 2 or 3 times, another one is born 7 times? Because the one who is born only one more time, he puts in a lot of effort. Like the Buddha. The Buddha, if you study the suttas and the Vinaya, he was already an Arya, and either a Sotapanna or a Sakadagamin. So when he came back as Siddhartha Gautama, he couldn't understand why also he must go and become renounced and become a monk. But something inside bring him. Something, because once you have become a Sotapanna or a Sakadagamin, when you are reborn, you've forgotten about it. But in your subconscious, you don't forget. So your subconscious will lead you the way. This in Hinduism is called the Adi Guru, the primary teacher. The primary teacher is inside here. So, to summarize, to become a Sotapanna, first you must be spiritually matured enough to search for the truth, and then you come across a teacher, and then you examine whether he has greed, hatred and delusion. If not, you have faith and respect for him. Then you are able to listen to the Dhamma. And some people, when they listen initially they already attain stream entry. And they say here, after they listen, they gain a reflective acceptance of the teaching. Gaining and reflective acceptance means they understood. So you attain stream entry. Then he practices in accordance with the Dhamma. He recollects the Dhamma. In our case, we are very lucky we don't have to recollect in the sense that during the Buddha's time there had no books, They had to memorize. Nowadays we have the books. In fact, we are more lucky than people born during the Buddha's time. You know why? Because if you are born during the Buddha's time, the Buddha will come to your kampong maybe for 1 week or 2 weeks, then you go off to some other kampong. So you can only listen to a few suttas. But now, we have 5,000 of the Buddha suttas that he taught for 45 years, all in the Nikayas. And if you don't take the opportunity to listen to it, very sorry for you, because the Buddha said, when you look into the past 91 world cycles, one night the Buddha didn't sleep. Spent the whole night looking into the past, managed to see 91 world cycles. He saw only 6 Sammasambuddha. Not so easy to find a Sammasambuddha, They don't come so easily. So 91 world cycles, 6 Sammasambuddhas, how long to get to hear one Sammasambuddha? So if you miss this opportunity, you have to wait for many lifetimes. And during that many lifetimes, you don't know how many times you fall into hell. So don't play, as he said. So I think let us stop here to give you all a chance to ask questions. So one last thing I want to say is Samyutta Nikaya 56.51. One day the Buddha was talking to his disciples and he took a bit of soil on his finger. Then he asked the disciples, he said, look at this soil on my fingertip. Is it a lot compared to all the soil in the earth? And the disciples said, on your fingertip is so little, how can you compare with the soil on the whole earth? So the Buddha said, similarly, once a person has attained Sotapanna, the dukkha, the suffering that you have left is so little compared to a person who has not attained Sotapanna. So in other words, if you don't attain Sotapanna, you'll be suffering for a very, very long time. But once you have attained Sotapanna, you can take a slow boat out of samsara. Questions?
Thank you very much because the talk is which is very heavy. Any of you got any questions you'd like to ask? There's a mic in front. Please come forward to ask the questions. Bhante, just now you mentioned about the Savakas during the time of the Buddha who attained the right way by just listening to the Dhamma. Today, we are more fortunate with a lot of books a lot of Dhamma books. So can one just leave the institution and read the Dhamma books and also attain the right view and also attain the path of the Arya?
You can, provided the conditions are there. Namely, that you don't have the 5 hindrances obsessing your mind. When you study the suttas, you can attain understanding. When you attain understanding, Buddha says you have fathomed the Dhamma, seen the Dhamma. That is twin and true.
Any more questions?
You find generally the sutras, the Buddha asks lay disciples to memorize the suttas, listen to the Dhamma, and he seldom asks them to meditate, because meditation is very difficult. Meditation is like, for the Buddha's disciples, it's like a 24 hours a day thing, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Bhante, did I hear correctly just now Bhante mentioned about a person who attained the Sotapanna, has perfected the Sila, but not the Samadhi and the Sotapanna. So is it true that the person can become a Sotapanna by just perfecting the Sila and need not perfect?
The most important thing for a person to become Sotapanna is understanding the suttas and the Dhamma. Because just now I mentioned one of the suttas, the Sotapanna is defined as one who knows and sees the Dhamma. But because he knows and sees the Dhamma, then he will take the trouble to keep Sila. That Sila is a later consequence. The first important condition is seeing and understanding the Dhamma, which is by hearing the Dhamma, namely the suttas.
Sotapanna sees dependent originations.
It is not louder.
As a Sotapanna sees the dependent originations.
Oh yes, in the if you see in my book, Condition Arising or Suffering, it is said that he who sees the Dhamma sees dependent arising, and he who sees dependent arising sees the Dhamma. So if you don't understand condition arising or suffering, you don't understand the Dhamma, and vice versa. Stream winner, the Sotapanna. Stream winner also, because remember Ananda was said to be a stream winner when the Buddha was still alive, and in one of the suttas it is mentioned that he told the Buddha, he said, although this dependent arising is deep, yet I see it as plain as can be. In other words, he says he understands dependent origination very clearly, and the Buddha said, don't say so, Ananda, don't say so. Dependent origination or dependent arising is profound, is deep. So what the Buddha is saying is that this right view, the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, is not the same for all the Aryans. The right view of a Sotapanna is not the right view of an Arahant. See? So, he attains a shallow, the Sotapanna has attained a shallow right view, but the Arahant has perfect right view. So you see, in the Vinaya books, maybe not in the Suttas, there are many things mentioned in the Vinaya books which are not in the Suttas. It is said that the Buddha in one of the suttas mentioned that before he was enlightened, he considered the 12 things of dependent origination, and he saw that, he understood, Now, in the Vinaya books, it is said that after the Buddha was enlightened, and then after some time, he contemplated dependent origination for 12 hours, the whole night, until he completely understood dependent origination. Because it is said the first 4 hours he contemplated arising of suffering, then the next 4 hours he contemplated the ceasing of suffering, then the next 4 hours he contemplated arising and ceasing of suffering. So, to truly understand dependent origination like the Buddha, you need to use psychic power and see how beings are born and take rebirth again and again, and what causes them to be reborn again and again. So if you don't have the psychic powers also, you can understand, but not completely.
You mentioned something on breaking the minor precepts. May I know what are the minor precepts you're referring to?
In fact, if you look into the monks' Vinaya, first you have the Patimokkha, the 227 precepts of a monk, okay? And besides that, there are still other rules in the Vinaya books, not in the 227 precepts. So, there are many rules for a monk and a nun. And it is stated that the heavy offences are the 4 parajikas and the 13 samgadisesa. So all the rest is minor. In other words, there's a lot of minor precepts. For example, under the 227 precepts, it is said that a monk is not allowed to eat after noon and before dawn the next day. This is one of the minor rules. Initially, the Buddha did not make this rule, and yet there were a lot of arahants. And the arahants could eat whenever they like, and they would go and beg for their food whenever they like. Even at night also, sometimes monks used to beg for their food, some of them. So later, the Buddha, as he gathered more and more disciples, then you get more rotten eggs. Then he started to make more and more precepts. So coming back to this rule where the monk is not allowed to eat afternoon. Sometimes, like I've heard at certain monasteries in Thailand, the monks they have to do building work. So, for example, they are laying concrete. They have to finish laying concrete. So maybe at the time they finish, it's past noon already. Maybe half an hour past noon or 1 hour past noon. But then the abbot allows them to eat because they couldn't eat earlier. So in this case, you can relax the rule because you cannot be too attached. If you are too attached, you cannot become a Sotapanna also. Because there's one factor called Sila Bhatta Paramasa, attachment to precepts and practices. If you hold on to that, cling to that, you cannot become a Sotapanna. So, for example, another one I just mentioned, when we started our monastery 17 years ago, we had no money. We had very little support. So, the monastery everywhere, the grass was about 3 feet tall. And then, after a while, the surrounding land was given away to some people. And then they started to fell the trees to plant all palm and all that. Then the snakes started to come into our land. One day I saw a 10 feet python crossing the road into our land. So we had to cut the grass because the snakes are hiding in the grass. Even a king cobra started 6 feet. After 2 years, grew up to 8 feet. used to see the king cobra. So some people came to help in the monastery, do some work, but initially our land was 15 acres, a lot of work, Some of them, after staying a few days, they never came back. And one tough guy told me, he came initially, after that, and then he found the work so tough, he didn't come back for another 3 years. After 3 years he came back, then he told me, work so tough, we were frightened. So we had to do things like concreting the footpath, we had to cut the grass, because the snakes were everywhere. So a monk is not supposed to cut the grass. Lay people are supposed to cut the grass for the monk, but no lay people coming to help. And we got no money, so I had to do. So some people, they don't understand. They get very angry. This Bhante hai don lai bo siu kai.
Venerable Sir, can I please clarify, is our paying homage to the Buddha founders as rights and rituals?
During the Buddha's time, there was no Buddha statue, Just now I mentioned the Buddha said, the true Dhamma will last 500 years. So after 500 years, Buddha statues started to appear. This one in Gandhara. So people start to bow to Buddha statues and pray to Buddha statues for help and all that. That's why Chinese you say pai for. But pai for we know is wrong, to be swear for. You should study the Buddha's words, not pray to the Buddha. So in a way it's a ritual going to the Buddha. But because sometimes it becomes so common, if you don't do it, then people will be critical. Like Western monks like Umpo Sumedo, they got their training in Thailand. And in Thailand, the lay people expect you to take a broom and throw water at them. He doesn't like to do it, also he has to do it. Because it's a tradition. So like in our monastery, we don't have any Buddha statue to bow to. So I'm very happy that I don't have to do that. When I come here, everybody bows to the Buddha statue, I also have to bow.
Thank you, Bhante, for your good speech. Now the thing is, I'm wondering, when we listen to the Dhamma alone, our mind does not stay still. So how are we going to progress? Isn't that going to Sotapanna that we have to have a very still mind? Or
Can you say that again? I didn't hear you.
So the thing is, when I listen to Dhamma alone, my mind cannot stay still. It cannot be calmed down. So when we go for meditation, maybe it helps a little bit, yet it's still wandering. Does it, to achieve the Sotapanna, do our mind has to be very calm and stay still?
It is mentioned just now in the suttas that you need these two conditions for attaining right view. Is the voice of another teaching you the Dhamma, and yoniso manasikara, which is focus, attention. So you need to be able to focus your mind on what you are either listening or reading. So maybe if your mind is not so focused, you have to listen more often, more times, and then it will slowly penetrate. But if a person has a very sharp mind, he listens once, he might attain understanding and stream entry. So don't lose heart, just keep listening and keep investigating the suttas. Something will go in if you keep listening. Many years ago, after I became a monk, I gave Dhamma talks and I brought the CDs for my mother to listen. My mother is staying with my brother who is Catholic. So my sister played the CDs for my mother to listen. Few years later, I found when I talked to my brother, he talked about past life karma and all that. Then I know something went inside.
Just now Bhante mentioned that sometimes after listening to the Buddha's teaching, then the audience become the Arihants or Sotapanna. And then my question is, how do someone know that he is a Sotapanna? Or maybe confirmed by his teacher or whatever?
That's a very good question. Just now, I mentioned in one sutta that the Buddha said, after a person listens to the Dhamma, he practices seclusion. And there are two types of seclusion. Seclusion of body and seclusion of mind. So, when a person understands the Dhamma, he sees impermanence. It's a little bit like a person who's told by the doctor that he has cancer, 6 months more to live. When a person hears that he has cancer, he gets a shock. And then he knows he has very little time left. So he got to make the best use of his time. So in the same way, if a person listens to the Dhamma and understands, as the sutta says, impermanence, once you understand impermanence, then you know your time is very limited and you've got to make the best use of your time. Then you start to withdraw from society. There is withdrawal of body. And then you lose interest in spending hours watching the TV or whatever you used to spend your time doing, enjoying yourself, all that, you start losing interest. Instead, you devote your time to yourself, listening to the Dhamma and practicing meditation, keeping your sila, and trying to change your bad habits. In Chinese we say 修行, 修行. A lot of people don't understand the meaning of 修行. They think it's just meditation. 修行is not meditation. 修行means 修行为 修行是修行为 cultivating your character, cultivating your mind, cultivating yourself. In other words, getting rid of your bad habits, unwholesome states of mind, and developing wholesome states of mind. That's why sometimes in the suttas it is said one of the characteristics of a Sotapanna is that person is very generous. He's no more selfish like before. A normal person now will be very selfish. Only think about yourself only. But when you realize that all beings are like you, all beings have their own suffering, then you become more sympathetic, more generous to people. And then you also realize, like the Buddha said in the suttas, every person you meet is most probably related to you in the past. Otherwise you don't meet them in this world. There are how many billions of people? How many do you meet? You don't meet very many. Those that you meet have been associated with you in the past life. So that is the most important characteristic of a Sotapanna, that he begins to withdraw from the world. Also, if that person really understands that Dhamma, then he starts to become very humble. And some people, they say their teacher has certified that they are Sotapanna. They want to tell everybody that they are Sotapanna. That is definitely not the characteristic of the Sotapanna. Humility, one of the yardsticks of how well the person practices is humility. The more humble the person is, his cultivation is the better. Okay?
Okay, one more last question.
Venerable, from your understanding of human nature, at the present time, is it easy to be a Sotapanna?
At the present time, it's more difficult because we have a lot of things to enjoy. If you go to a poor country, like say Myanmar, or Thailand, Kampong area, those people are very simple people because they are poor. And then you find that they can meditate better than you. Here we got so much distractions. We have internet, we have email, everything. So every day our mind is distracted. But if you have the good karma from the past life, then you should be able to focus your mind. It's very important to be able to focus your mind, because when you listen to Dhamma, what you have to do is focus your attention on what you are reading or what you are hearing. If you can focus, then you can understand. Sometimes I find when I tell somebody something, then I find the person does something different, Then I know that person didn't really get what I was trying to tell that person. It shows the mind is not focused.
Second question. In the world now, are there any Arya?
It is not difficult to find Sotapanna. A little bit more difficult to find Sakadagamin, but they still have because those 3 jhanas is not so difficult to attain, but the 4th jhana is difficult to attain. So it's very difficult to find Anagamins and Arhants. But the trouble is nowadays, when you talk about jhana also, there are different jhanas, depending on which jhana you are following, whether you are following the Buddha's jhana or some other jhana.